Welcome back to an unexpected art lesson about John William Waterhouse. Let us start with the thing both Waterhouse and Fromsoftware understood, that lesser treatments of similar subjects miss entirely. Beauty in their work is not decoration. It is not a softening agent applied to make difficult material more palatable. We don't make it prettier so it's easier and softer. It is a mechanism by which the difficulty becomes unavoidable. You can't look away. Terrible things can still happen to beautiful things, and just because something is beautiful does not mean it is not strong and able to make its own decisions. When Waterhouse paints the Lady of Shalott in her boat, her luminosity is not a reward for looking at the painting. It is the reason you cannot look away from the painting, from what the painting is actually about, which is a person moving deliberately toward her own destruction. Maria's elegance in the fight functions exactly the same way. Fromsoftware did not make her graceful because grace is appealing. They made her graceful because grace is what makes her tragedy impossible to dismiss. It also adds more stakes to the fight when it's that level of challenging.
I still believe getting your butt kicked gracefully is so much more humiliating than just getting flattened by something.
Exactly! And also, I find it annoying and more than a little rude when media decides to make the bad guys ugly. Not that these are acting as bad guys, but bad when they make it so the bad things happen to the ugly people. That's not fair. That's not cool. I want to see a beautiful, gorgeous villain die, because it just hurts more. And it also has more of an impact when they weren't bad people. They were people in a tough position, making the only choice they had to make. The choice is what makes them more memorable than their beauty, but the beauty makes it harder to look away.
It makes something about this fight feel you weren't going up against just a generic hunter. You're going up against the best of them, and someone who looks like Lady Maria does and fights as elegantly as she does, you get the feeling that she's done that a lot and she's still there.
Yeah.
And it's not you're outstrengthed, it's you are outclassed.
Oh yeah.
Where we're going with this is, think about what it would mean if either of them were ugly. A haggard Lady of Shalott drifting towards Camelot becomes a cautionary tale, something that you can observe from a safe distance and learn from. A ungainly Maria stumbling through her fight faces becoming a monster turns her more into a monster to be overcome. The beauty in both cases is what closes the distance between the subject and the audience, thus refusing to let it reopen. You are not permitted to watch from the outside. You are pulled in, and once you are in, you are now implicit within this story.
They couldn't escape, neither can you. Let's take a look at where some of the connections run deepest. The threshold is the first and most important. Waterhouse returned to it painting after painting, the moment just after the irreversible choice has been made, but before its consequences have fully arrived. When the hero takes that step into the unknown, that step into a fate that they'll never be able to escape, this is one where they know what they're signing up for, and they are doing it willingly without flinching. The Lady of Shalott has already looked. Circe has poured the poison. Saint Eulalia has refused to speak the words that would save her, no matter what she was put through. Waterhouse never painted the decision itself. He painted the person standing in the space the decision created. And what he found there was a particular quality of attention, a clarity that only exists when there's nothing left to calculate. There's no more wondering, what should I do? They knew what to do. They did it. It's done. Maria exists in exactly that space. The fishing hamlet is behind her. The clock tower is her chosen consequence. When you enter and she rises from that chair, she's not deciding anything. Everything was decided a long time ago, when she locked the door and sealed herself in. What you are seeing is a person who has been living in the aftermath of her own threshold moment, and who meets you with the same clear-eyed composure that Waterhouse found in his women at the water's edge.
That is kind of the feeling I got when I was looking at those 3 particular paintings we referenced, and the first thing I thought is, oh, I can write more on Bloodborne.
I mean, win-win. We get to talk about deep emotional stuff, and real life and folklore and mythology, and we get to talk about deep emotional stuff in video games.
I'd go with a win-win there too.
What's the second connection?
The second part of the connection is isolation. This particular concept runs just as deep. Waterhouse's women are almost always alone, not incidentally, by chance or by luck, but structurally designed as part of this tale. The Lady of Shalott is alone in her tower, alone in her boat. Cersei stands in water that no one else would enter. Saint Eulalia lies in a courtyard where the crowd moves past her without stopping. The isolation in each case is both punishment and protection. A space these women have either been assigned or claimed, where the thing that defines them can exist without having to be explained or justified to anyone.
That sounds amazing, not having to explain myself and why I am the way I am and not having to justify things. As a woman, that just sounds amazing. But I feel like that also happens to all people. It's not just women. Everyone in this world, you feel like you have to explain and justify things to people. You have to justify why you exist the way that you do. But having a place where you can just be, even if you know what the price is, I'd say it's worth the price.
Yeah, I'd say that's quite astute. Although I will acquiesce to the theory that you having to explain yourself versus me, I tend to have a resting grumpy face that helps do the explaining for me, so...
Yeah, fair. I just look too nice.
Maria's clock tower, in this particular case, does hold the same type of relevance as the other 3 paintings we had chosen. She did not go there because she was sent. She went there because the thing she was carrying needed somewhere to exist that was away from everything else. The clock tower is not a prison. It is the spatial expression of what she became after the hamlet. A place as sealed and deliberate as her own sounds after what was done there.
The clock tower became more like a watchtower. It was the stone blocking the way. The third connection is the one that takes the longest to see, but it is ultimately the most important. Both Waterhouse and Fromsoftware are deeply interested in what a body testifies to after the choice has been made. Saint Eulalia's body in the snow is evidence. It cannot be argued with. It says without word, here is what this person held, and here's what it cost. She held on to her faith, and it cost her her life, and she died after a lot of pain and suffering in a very humiliating manner. Maria's 3-phase fight is the same kind of testimony delivered in motion. First phase shows you the hunter she built herself into. The second phase, where she burns her own hands to escalate, shows you the self-punishment she has been administering in the clock tower. For who knows how long. The third phase, where her own blood becomes a weapon, shows you what she has been living inside, the truth, the monster that she has kept inside all of this time. Because we all have a bit of a monster inside of us, but what makes a real monster? Who decides? Because yes, she had a monster inside, but I'd say she's a hero. By the time the fight ends, you have read her the way you read a Waterhouse painting, from the outside in, each layer revealing something the previous one was holding back. Maria died, wholly and unashamedly herself. No mask, no pretending, no covering it up. She died purely as herself.
Yeah, that is one of the best accurate ways to sum up Maria's final moments in that particular fight, followed by Holy crap, I can't believe I'm alive.
I did it! I'm alive! I'm alive! I'm also deeply sad about what I just did. I'm about to have to do something that's a lot worse, but I'll be a lot less conflicted about that one.
Oh yeah. And what's worth sitting with is that neither Waterhouse nor FromSoftware ask you to forgive their subjects. The Lady of Shalott broke a rule and is dying for it. Cersei did something genuinely terrible to Scylla. Maria was at the fishing hamlet and did not stop what happened there. The beauty and clarity and the isolation are not arguments for absolution. They are arguments for full witnessing. Both the painter and the game designers are saying the same thing. Look at this person completely. Hold the beauty and the act in the same frame. Don't let one cancel the other out.
I would like to make the argument that none of these people should have had to carry the punishment and the weight that they did. They carried it with honor and grace, and they made their decision knowing what would happen. But how could someone deserve to be cursed to live out the rest of their days in a tower, unable to look at the real world? And then the second she looks away, well, you're gonna die now. That's not fair. What could she possibly have done? What happened to Eulalia? She was being honest, 100% honest. She died for what she believed in. And that was not a price she should have had to pay, but she paid it. And I still stand by, Cersei could have done a lot worse to Scylla than turned her into a terrifying monster that is basically unkillable. I mean, yeah, that's not the most flattering thing to be, but she turned Scylla into a power in and of herself. You just avoid the lair of Scylla, because there is no escape. Even the great genius Odysseus, the only thing he could think of is she has 6 heads, so I'm gonna make 6 people hold torches, just, pick the people that are least important, I guess.
Yep.
Maria, yes, she didn't stop what was happening, but so many other people could have stopped it too. She chose to be the one to take the punishment for the mistakes of other people. Even though there had to have been other people that knew what they were doing was wrong. That knew what they were doing was going to have a higher price than they were willing to pay.
Oh yeah, you do find out the fate of some of the other hunters that were part of that act, and let me give you a spoiler, it didn't end well for any of them. Maria's the only one that got to go out with grace.
Because she knew this had to be contained. Had to make sure that this didn't get anywhere else. So she sat and watched, and she watched what happened to those other hunters. She watched what happened to her friends. These women are beautiful and graceful and powerful in their own way, and they are damned to fates worse than death for things that weren't really their fault. They are, some of them, Cersei is treated as a villain. Yeah, she did bad things. Name one person in ancient Greece who didn't do bad things. She was just trying to protect her people. And she could have done a lot worse to Scylla. She could have turned Scylla into a pig and just dropped her in the ocean. Instead, she turned her into a powerful monster. Force of nature. Look at what these people were made to do. Look at the choices these women were made to make. And they didn't flinch. They didn't stumble. They didn't stutter. They did what needed to be done. They made their choice, and they stuck with it. And that's beautiful. But it didn't have to be that way.
Oh, I agree.
Which just makes that choice even more tragic.
Yeah, I agree. That is kind of the balancing act that Waterhouse and FromSoftware does so well.
And it's beautifully done. It can be a tricky balancing act, but when done well, you can't look away. Balancing both of them, it's balancing the beauty and the tragedy and the confidence in the act of the women facing the fate that they shouldn't have had to face, but facing it all the same in a way that people can't look away. It's harder than it sounds, and it is rarer in art than it should be. But it's worth doing and worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why people like Waterhouse, their work deserves to be studied. That's why we're here talking about it.
Exactly. I'm glad Waterhouse was another artist I helped you discover and resonated with you.
Yeah, I like his stuff a lot. I'm also a really big girl power girly and fighting fate, and this is my choice. You don't get to make it. You don't get to judge me for it. I have made this choice. This is what I'm going to do. And I like to think that in the end, they ended up somewhere better because they stuck by their choice.
I would like to believe so.
I'm just choosing to believe so. You will not be able to convince me otherwise unless we get something from Fromsoftware proving that Maria didn't end up with a happy afterlife. And if we do get that, no offense, Fromsoftware, full respect, I will refuse to accept that. She gets a happy afterlife.
I will not spoil the fate of many Bloodborne characters for you.
As long as Maria gets the happy afterlife. Her specifically.
Fair enough.
I want her to have peace.
One hunter gets fused with his horse, so let's just go with that all but go well.
I mean, that's one way to end up with centaurs.
If they went half and half.
That sounds like a bad time.
Oh, it was a terrible time for him.
So, listeners, bit of a warning ahead of time if you decide that you also want to give Bloodborne a try. It's a horror game. There's going to be horror and gross things and Uncanny Valley and Eldritch horror. Not meant to dissuade anyone. Just a heads up, if you have a thing with not liking things that have a bunch of eyes, might not be the game for you. Maybe just go to the wiki and absorb the lore that way. Or see if there's a mod that makes it cutesy. Because there's gotta be something around there somewhere which would be a very interesting contrast and make it kind of funny. So you're laughing while you're trying not to die.
Bloodborne meets Animal Crossing.
Oh, I was thinking like sparkly like My Little Pony. Just cute and fluffy and sparkly.
Yeah, speaking of something cute and fluffy, I just heard a crash outside.
Shall we wrap up and continue this another time once you remove your cat from the wall?
Yep.
You have been listening to an unexpected art lesson about John William Waterhouse. If you like what we're doing, you can follow us on social media and join the conversation over at An Unexpected Art Lesson on Threads, Blue Sky, and Substack. And you can also support us over on Patreon. Get early access to episodes and other fun things at patreon.com/anunexpectedartlesson.